Hello, First Space fans. I'm so delighted to be at Summit virtually this year. I hope you're having a great time, and I wish I was in Kentucky with you. I want you to know that I am more focused, more relaxed, and more emotionally healthy than I have been in years. And I think I figured out why. Let me tell you this story, and maybe it'll show you that what has happened. So, about 12 years ago, George and I started a publishing company called Bold Vision Books. And we believe that it was totally a calling from God who put it in our hearts to do it because we really had no reason to do it at all. We had no experience, no warehouse, no employees, no money, no machinery, no expertise, none at all. But God called us to it, and we followed Him, and it's been a ride. I'm telling you, a wild ride. Sometimes bumpy, sometimes smooth. And to quote an old song, we've had Jesus at the wheel, and we've just been along for the ride. So during all this time, I've had one huge nagging and frustrating problem, and that problem is scheduling. And I'll tell you why, because to publish a book takes somewhere between 10 and 15 steps. And each one of those steps involves other people like editors and proofreaders and artists and designers and tech people and financial people and legal people and the author. And it's just a lot of steps. Well, that doesn't sound too daunting that you have these 10 to 15 steps to do until you realize that we might have as many as 20 books going on at the same time, and each one of them is at a different place in those steps. And it's like juggling or keeping plates spinning on a stick or something. And this schedule has been a nightmare, and it has weighed heavy on me all the days, and to be honest, many nights. It just weighs heavily on me. And I haven't, I've tried to organize it. Truly, I have. I made complicated spreadsheets, but the intricate details of those spreadsheets made me fail using those. I bought some computer scheduling programs, and I spent more time trying to make my situation fit the template of those programs until I failed with that. One day, George hung two huge whiteboards on my office wall so I could write schedules on there. And I ended up just scribbling notes on it, and that idea failed too. I've had paper schedules and digital schedules and calendars, and nothing seemed to work for me at all. I couldn't make it work. And one day I was walking through my problems with this with my virtual assistant. And she came up with a simple idea using Google Docs. And guess what? It worked. It's so simple, and it's tailored exactly to our situation. And it is something that everyone in the company can see at any time. And because it's laid out so clearly and so perfectly, I can work on one problem or one project at a time without wondering in the back of my mind if I should be working on some other project or some other deadline. I don't have to think about all that because everything is scheduled according to this plan. And I told you that long story. It's really been wonderful for me. And I told you that long story because I want you to see how free I am. I am so free now. The anxiety of missing a deadline, the worry of whether I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing or am I on time with a project, and the stress of just feeling sort of overwhelmed with it all is all gone. It's gone because a simple plan worked a miracle. And when I realized how emotionally free I came from this, I thought I need to study why did such a simple plan work so well? Why did the simple plan affect me so positively? And how could I apply that simplicity to the rest of my life. And so I really, really started studying it. And those of you who know me know that's exactly what I was thinking, that I had to study it and figure it out. But look, I feel so emotionally free from that stress that I want to feel that way in every other area of my life. And I want that freedom and that emotional peace that I feel. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, is what I've discovered, how you can find freedom through simplicity. And this idea falls into the category of our emotional health, one of those areas of the four-sided person we always talk about in First Place for Health. You know that we have four parts of our lives. The physical is how we move our muscles, we exercise, that's our physical part of our body, and lose weight and get strong. And the spiritual, that's why we work through our wonderful Bible studies in first place, because we want to grow spiritually. And mental, we're always learning new scripture and memorizing scripture, and we're studying all the time about how our bodies work, and how whatever we can do to make our mental processes much better, and our emotional. And that's why we work so hard to try to find those triggers that push us into unhealthy patterns. I believe our emotional health really helps us focus on our first place journey, and it brings peace. And if we get healthy emotionally, we will find freedom and peace. And you know what? I was in prison, and I really didn't even know it. I was really in prison. I was a slave to the anxiety and the worry of trying to get my act together all the time. I don't know. Maybe you're in prison too. Maybe you're thinking I'm overwhelmed and I can't do that. So today I want to give you some ideas to help you get emotionally free and to find that kind of freedom through simplicity. Well, simplicity actually starts with a word that I've been afraid of most of my life, and that word is declutter. I mean, when somebody says it, I think, oh my gosh, have they seen my garage or my closet or the drawers around my house? And declutter, it sounds so ominous, doesn't it? And it gets tossed around a lot in these days, and it's very much a buzzword. But what does it really mean? What does declutter or simplicity really mean? I looked it up, and I found some synonyms that really opened my eyes to it. One is reduce. Reduce what's around you. Well, that made sense to me, and I kind of would have guessed that one. Another synonym is unscramble. Now, think about that for just a minute. To just, yeah, are you living with scramble everywhere? And you could, if you could unscramble all of the details around you, and unscramble all of the stacks around you, and the drawers and the stuff all around you, wouldn't that be good? I found another synonym which kind of surprised me for declutter and simplicity, which is get down to basics. Yeah, that's where I want to be. I want to get down to the basics of life, the important parts of life. And then I found another phrase that just blew me away. It said, to simplify and to declutter is to let daylight in. And I don't know about you, but that tickled me, because, sometimes it does feel like a dark cave I'm in, because I have too much around me, too much to do, too much stuff, too much processes that I want, too many projects I want to do, too many ideas I have. And it's just let the daylight in, and then it will seem more clear. In fact, that's the last of the synonyms is this phrase, make perfectly clear. Make it clear. That's what simplicity does it. When I look at that list, reduce, unscramble, get down to basics, let daylight in, and make perfectly clear, I look at that list and I think, yes, please. Yes, please. I'd like to let the daylight in. I'd like to unscramble my life. Wouldn't you? I think so. And I think we'll all be more emotionally free if we will do it. So let's get started. The first part of what I want to talk to you about is talk about unscrambling or desimplifying or simplifying your life, your world around you. So let's start in the kitchen. Oh dear, you might say, but let's do that. In fact, let's start at the sink. I promise you that if you will clean the sink before you do anything else in the morning, your day will be better. In fact, according to the Fly Lady, who is a organizational genius, a clean sink creates order in one of the most chaotic places in our house. So when you get up, go and look at the sink and say what dirty dishes got left there in the night. Put them in the dishwasher or wash them quickly and put them away. And then spray the sink with a cleaner and wipe it down. Do you know I Googled a sparkling sink and there were 67 million results? I was stunned. But it tells me how important it is and how many ways there are to make your sink sparkle. But I want to promise you something. A sparkling sink will make your day magical. And not only magical, but it's also contagious because it will help you get the rest of your house in order too. So while I'm making the coffee in the morning, while it's brewing, I start on the sink and then I go through the island and the cabinet tops, the countertops. I clear stuff off. I don't know about you, but at my house, the island is where everybody drops whatever they bring into the house, whether it's the mail or a receipt from the store or an empty package they brought in or the tools we used yesterday, pencils and pens and just stuff gets left there. And it happens. But if I clear it off in the morning, I start while I'm doing that, and it never takes more than I'm always done before the coffee's made. And if I clear it off in the morning, the whole day takes on a new way, a new freedom, a new day, a better way. And it only takes a few minutes. So look around your cabinet tops, your countertops. What is there that you could put into a cabinet? Designers say all you need is one plant to make your kitchen look wonderful. I don't know if I want to go that drastic, but I imagine all of us could put something away and clear the countertop off. And if we do, it will be better for us, simpler for us, and takes away some anxiety that we didn't even know was there. Now that you've done that, I want you to go and look in your cabinets. Oh, that's a scary place, isn't it? Do you have dishes stacked on top of each other? Is it easy to reach everything? Is there mismatched glasses and jars in there? How many glasses and cups do you have? How many do you really need? Could some of them be put somewhere else? I have a set of cookware that includes some pots and a large frying pan. And I never, ever have used that frying pan. Never. I don't fry stuff and I just never, and it's really large, so I never, ever use that frying pan. Yet there it is taking up space in my cabinet. I moved it to a closet and now my space is so much easier. I can get to other spots that are there. I took out all the mismatched glasses and coffee cups, and I just left what we needed. You know what I found when I was in my cabinets were these. They're actually little plates. I hope you can see them well. They're beautiful dishes, and they are actually from Avon. And my mother-in-law had a business with Avon, and she won all kinds of prizes with it. And somehow in one of her cabinets was a huge collection of this, I think it's called rose glass, but it's Avon glass. But isn't it pretty? And isn't it interesting? And it just doesn't look like anything else I have. And after she died, the family gave me that whole set, and I have treasured it. But you know what? It has laid in my cabinets for all these years, just because I know, well, that's special. That came from her, and those beautiful little dishes are just sitting there, and we never ever use them in any way. We We never had anything out of these little bowls. So when I decided to declutter and look in my cabinets, I thought to myself, why aren't I using these? Because every time I put a little fruit in that bowl or something, I think of her and I think how much I loved her and she loved me. And this is a treasure to me. And now I find it a treasure every day. So we are using these plates and dishes and bowls all the time. And it's really wonderful to have them in our collection and to use them every day. They bring us such joy. They never brought any joy when I had them stuffed in the back of the cabinet, just taking up room. So if you find something like that, use it. What are you saving it for? Another place in our cabinet, we had stacks of dishes, and you couldn't get to what was underneath without taking everything out and put it back in. So consequently, I never used them. And on the bottom of those stacks were these plates. They are long plates, and they are just the right size for a salad and a little meat and maybe a vegetable or a soup and a sandwich. They're just perfect for it. And we never used them because it was just so hard to get your hands on them. And so we moved all the cabinets, cleaned them out, moved the stuff around, and these are now right there where we can get them. And guess what? They are our plate of choice. This is the plate we'd rather eat out of than anything else because we can get to it now. Oh, how simple life is when that. I promise there is emotional freedom when you clear out these items and that you're trying to get around. I put all my extra dishes in a box because I wasn't sure I wanted to get rid of them, but I put them in a box. Now, if I want something out of there, I can get it. But if I don't go to that box in the next year, I'll get rid of that box because more than I love those dishes or those old cups or whatever they were, more than I love them, I love the freedom that I feel emotionally because of that. It really depends on whether you'd like to be free or whether you'd like to hold on to one of those bowls that you have some kind of sentimental journey. I didn't know that clutter was a heavy burden. I thought I was fine, but I wasn't. I didn't know. And maybe you haven't thought of it either. One time, a friend of ours came to visit for the weekend. And at that time, we had just moved in this house, and it's a small house that we actually we're actually doing a fixer-upper in this little house. But before we lived here, we had built our dream home on some acreage north of Houston. And in that home, we had bought a brand new TV, the ultimate TV at that time. It was a flat screen, but it was before the flat screens got skinny. It was a flat screen, but it still had that huge piece on the back of it where all the tubes were. But it didn't bother us in our new home because we built a cabinet just for it and they pushed it in there and all you could see was the flat screen. But when we moved to this little house, this little fixer-upper house, we didn't have a special place built just for that TV. And so we put it on a cabinet and set it on the wall in our living room. And it was just too big for that little living room. It just stuck out. It was just hideous looking there. So one time a friend of ours was visiting and came for the weekend, and early one of the mornings that she was here, we were sitting in the living room drinking coffee, and this friend said something that changed my world really big. We talked about that TV, and we said that TV works perfectly, and it has really good sound, and we know it's not right for that space, but it's a good TV and we just can't get rid of it because it's just perfectly fine. And our friend looked at it and looked at us and she said, well, it's not perfectly fine. and we knew she was right because it was just this big old monster sitting in that little living room. So we knew she was right, and we decided we'd get a real flat screen TV, which was better for that space. And then the best thing happened. A friend decided to give us a flat screen TV. Isn't God good? But look, what I really want you to see is that don't hang on to something because it's perfectly fine. It may not be perfectly fine. And you can simplify your world, and you will lose anxiety and burdens that you never knew you were carrying if you simplify your world. I'd also like to talk about not only simplifying your world around you, but also simplifying your heart, your mind, and your spirit. And I'm going to start with a hard subject, and that is forgiveness. I truly believe that unforgiveness is one of the deepest spiritual problems we have in our world today. If we are carrying around a pain or a hurt or bitterness, we will never be free. It can just be like a spat with a friend or some long held resentment. And either way, you can be in bondage to your pain and your misery. And did you hear that? We can be in bondage. Did you hear that? We can be in bondage, not them, not the person that we haven't forgiven. It creates bondage for us. And they're maybe just as free as can be. And medical doctors have done studies, and they say that your high blood pressure, your risk of heart attack, your stress levels are all bad for your health. And unforgiveness causes these problems in your spirit, in your physical body. So the unforgiveness that we carry around becomes a physical burden. But if you forgive, then you'll be healthier physically. Can you imagine that? And look, forgiveness is not just saying the words. It's really a decision to release the anger, the bitterness, the hurt, no matter whether the person deserves it or not, no matter if they ask you for forgiveness or not. You need to forgive because you need to be free. And you may never reconcile with the person, and some people are not safe to be reconciled with. But don't hang on to the hostility that you feel toward them. See, that's your choice, and forgiveness will make you free. I found that if I pray, if I have a hurt or pain or something that I can't forgive, if I pray asking God to bless that person, that is a path to freedom. If I say, Lord, I want you to bless them, I want you to give them a ministry, I want you to help them have people love them, I want you to bless them financially, I want you to bless them spiritually. And when I pray that and ask that of the Lord, I get on the path toward freedom because of it. Colossians 3:13 says we should bearing with one another. If one has a complaint against another, forgive. And as the same way that the Lord has forgiven you, you must always forgive. We have been given great forgiveness from our Lord, haven't we? And we need to forgive others, not for them, but for our health and our freedom. The second area of living free is not only forgiveness, but it's also learning to be gracious. This is a hard one for me because I generally have a knee-jerk reaction when a situation doesn't turn out well. A flight is canceled, or an appointment is canceled, or a store clerk is too slow. And my natural way would be to fuss about it. And because they've ruined my day and somehow. Not long ago, our entire family went to a fancy restaurant to celebrate a 21st birthday. And as we all dressed up and gathered around a large table that they had made for us, and when our wonderful food came, we all held hands and prayed and then we enjoyed our wonderful meal. Our server, Salvador, stopped and asked, and he said, Are you Christians? Do you go to church, and do you try to act like Christians everywhere you go? We said, well, yes, we go to church and we do try to act like Christians everywhere you go. And then he told us something that broke my heart. He said that none of the servers at the restaurant want to work the Sunday afternoon shift because all those church people who come in after church are the rudest clients of all their week. Doesn't that break your heart? That we are, as Christians, don't know how to be gracious to others. I tell you, I want to resolve not to be one of those church people. Don't you? We have a lot to put away and a lot to put on to become free. In Ephesians 4, Paul wrote these words. I want you to hear these words. Here's what Paul said. Since you have heard about Jesus and have learned the truth that comes from him, throw off your old sinful nature and your former way of life, which is corrupted by lust and deception. Instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy. Wow. Because of Jesus, we don't have to be in bondage anymore. And Paul, in the rest of that chapter in Ephesians 4, Paul makes a list. He makes a list of some pieces of life that we need to take off, pull them off like old clothes. Number one, stop telling lies. If you've told lies or embellished the truth, stop it. Number two, never let anger control you. Number three, it says, if you're a thief, quit stealing. So don't be a thief. And number four, don't use foul or abusive language. And number five, control your bitterness and rage and take it off. And then he goes on to say, put on some things. Number one, put on some hard work. Use your hands for hard work. Number two, give generously. Number three, say good and helpful words. Number four, encourage others. Number five, be kind and tenderhearted. And number six, forgive one another. I love that so much that we can take off that old nature and put on, like a beautiful new coat, put on that nature that was created by God and is truly righteous and holy. And when we do, oh my goodness, the freedom that we experience emotionally is so good. Well, let me give you two more tips, two little hacks. Number one, get some help. Without my assistant, I would have never come up with a way to manage my crazy schedule. Others can help you. Others have ideas. They have other experiences. They can help you. And not only that, they can pray for you. And then number two, my second hack for you is to learn to spend some time in silence. I'm going to read a passage for you from a new book that we're about to release called The Third Path by Eva Marie Everson. And in that book, she talks about silence and what it means to be silent. And I've just pulled a couple of excerpts to read for you so that you can hear what I am learning from her about silence. Here's what she says. Do you know the words listen and silent use the same letters? Isn't that interesting? Knowing this leads to another question. How can I truly listen? Meaning not only to hear, but to understand, unless I remain silent long enough to take in what God is saying. She goes on to say, have you ever wondered why we are frightened by silence? What happens to us during those rare moments of hush that keeps us from rather than sprinting toward those rare moments? She said she thinks she knows, namely, when we're silent, we're required to quieten our mind, to slow our heartbeat to a calmer rhythm. And then when we have stopped talking and thinking and spinning our own web, we must listen to our own thoughts, our own fears, our own questions, which might be too painful to ask in any other setting. I think most of us drown out what silence comes our way with any form of noise we can find. We get into our cars, we turn on the radio, we place a phone call, we walk into the silence of our home, we flip on the TV before we do anything else, not to watch it, but just to ensure that sound fills all of our homes. If we do those things, it says to us, well, I'm not alone. As long as I'm hearing someone, I don't have to listen to the sounds of my mind. Eva Marie says, because silence is not the end, ends to the means, but the means to the end. It's one end we're both craving for and terrified of. So she suggests you find a comfortable place, a favorite chair in a favorite room, a porch rocker that sits at the ready, and sit right in front of a shimmering pond or a grassy knoll or a wide expanse of open or a high mountain or a friendly neighborhood street. If you're a mother with young children running about, grab a time when they're quiet. I know it can be difficult, but find a place where you can be and be in the moment and hush. Listen. Do you hear nature around you? Don't think of that as a noise. It's nature. It's God whispering. It's his orchestra playing the symphony. Take in deep breaths and let them ease out of your body. Be aware of who you are and don't think of anything. Just be, just listen. If you can do that for 1 minute, 60 seconds, you're off to a great beginning. And the longer you spend there, the longer you'll wish to stay. You will soon crave it and actually look forward to it. Psalms 46:10 begins with these 2 words, be still. Do you know what those words means? It means exactly what they say. Stop, cease, hush. And according to the psalmist, what happens next? Be still and know that I am God. There it is, the point. The point, what we must choose, the purpose. But to know him, we must be still. We must first hush. So 2 hacks. 1, get help. And 2, learn to sit in silence. My friend calls it sitting with the Savior. Do you want to be emotionally free? Simplicity and silence can take you there. I can work in peace and freedom today because I know the rest of my work is scheduled for another time. When I cook dinner tonight, I'll use my favorite plates. And when I go to Jesus, I can open my heart to him because I've spent time sitting with my Savior. It is emotional freedom. It is emotional freedom. And it leads to emotional health. I'd love to hear how you can find this kind of freedom, what you've done. And I send my blessings to you all at Summit. Have a wonderful, wonderful time.